Unit 12, Exercise G1.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a university official.
Hi, can I help?
Yes. I wanted some information about the exchange student program.
I can help with that. What did you want to know?
Well, pretty much everything, to be honest. But, I guess my first question is, what programs are available?
We have exchange agreements with several universities in this country. Those are usually for a single semester, plus universities in Germany, the UK, and New Zealand. Those are all for 1 year.
I'm really interested in going overseas. So I guess my next question is whether I would be eligible.
Basically, any undergraduate who has successfully completed at least 15 credit hours is eligible. That excludes most freshman students in their first semester, but anyone else can apply. The minimum number of credits doesn't apply to grad students, but they must get permission from their department.
Are spaces awarded based on academic record? My cumulative grade point average is about 3.2 right now, for what that's worth.
As long as your GPA is 3.0 or better, you can apply. Some programs are more competitive than others, though, like London, England, so it's a good idea to be flexible about where you apply.
London would be great. But I'd be happy to study somewhere else, too. Now, what about getting credit if I get accepted into an exchange program? How does that work?
You'd need to discuss that with your academic advisor if you're accepted. Every student's situation is different.
I understand. Listen, thanks for your help.
You're welcome. Did you want to take an application package?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks again.
Listen to part of a lecture in an introductory sociology class. Two important concepts in sociology that you need to understand are agency and structure. These are such central ideas that we'll come back to them again and again in class, and you'll read about them often. So think of today's class as a quick overview or introduction. You'll obviously know the meaning of these words as they're used in everyday language, but in sociology, the terms have specific meanings. Agency can be defined as the extent to which individuals have the freedom, the free will, if you like, to act as they wish and make the choices they want. Of course, individuals live in a society of patterns, norms, institutions, and traditions, what we call structure, that all influence people's behavior, so that the number of actions they can take and choices they can make are, in fact, limited. One analogy that I think can clarify this distinction is to think of an individual employee at a company. In some matters, the employee has freedom to act as he wishes and do what he wants, but because he is an employee, he must also follow the rules, policies, and constraints of the company that employs him. Pressure from his coworkers and superiors shapes his normal actions and mode of behavior and severely limits what he can do and still reasonably expect to keep his job. Another analogy you may come across in your reading is of a sports team. An individual member of the team has a degree of freedom or agency in how she acts, but must also follow the structure of her sport. That is both the written regulations and unspoken rules and codes of conduct. Now, a question that has been discussed but not resolved almost since the discipline of sociology was founded is whether agency or structure has more of an impact on shaping human behavior. Early theorists tended to come down firmly on one side or the other of the debate. Some argued that individual agency is hardly limited by social structures at all, and that people have a great capacity to act independently of society. Others argued, equally strongly, that social structures powerfully shape human actions, and everything that people do is a result of the society in which they live and their position within that society. In more modern times, various attempts have been made to argue that both agency and structure are important in explaining behavior in society, that both are valid concepts, and that one cannot exist without the other. An interesting analogy is to think of agency and structure as two sides of a sheet of paper. Just as a sheet of paper must have two sides to exist in a stable form, so agency and structure are mutually necessary. Listen to part of a talk in a media studies class. The professor is discussing documentary films.
One of the most interesting trends in cinema over the past few decades has been the rise in the number of documentaries being made. Some people have even called this a golden age of documentary filmmaking. And many of these new documentaries are what we could call social issue documentaries. The typical issue documentary covers a subject such as a political scandal, environmental issue, social problem, or humanitarian topic. Usually the causes and/or effects of the topics are discussed and, in some cases, potential solutions are outlined. One of the most famous issue documentaries of recent times, and justly so in my view, is The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris. The film is not just a well-crafted, cinematically accomplished piece, but Morris was able to tell the story in such a persuasive way that an innocent man was released from prison. Another well-known issue documentary is Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, which laid out in very stark terms the effects of human activity on the environment. How about some more examples? Anyone?
What about Michael Moore's movies, like Bowling for Columbine and Sicko? I found those to be very powerful. And I really liked Super Size Me, though I forget the name of the director of that one.
Yes, Michael Moore has made a number of commercially successful issue documentaries. His film Fahrenheit 9/11, for example, is the highest-grossing documentary in history, and a number of other filmmakers have acknowledged Moore's influence on their documentaries. To my knowledge, Morgan Spurlock, who made Super Size Me, hasn't publicly stated that he was influenced by Michael Moore, but his documentaries are definitely in a very similar style to Moore's. It's debatable, though, whether any of the documentaries by Moore or Spurlock, or indeed any of the many other excellent social issue documentaries, have had much of a social impact. And that brings me to some important questions. First, to what extent can and do issue documentaries change the behavior or thinking of either individuals or society? Second, and more importantly, should we expect documentaries to be able to do these things? I've already mentioned that The Thin Blue Line led to the release of an innocent man, but it's hard to find other examples of documentaries that led to any concrete changes in society. And what about my second question? Can we expect documentaries to be able to change people, change society? At one level, I would argue that the answer should be no. Like other films, documentaries are created as a form of entertainment, not as a means of social change. But on the other hand, these days, many social issue documentaries are now backed by social action campaigns orchestrated through social media, websites, the mass media, and so on. These campaigns make it clear that the filmmakers are setting out not just to make a film, but to make a social change too. Unit 12, Exercise G1.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a university official.
Hi, can I help?
Yes. I wanted some information about the exchange student program.
I can help with that.